And welcome back to the Magic Sponge podcast, a miracle cure for all your rugby league injury issues. I'm Brien. I'm the guy behind all the NRL Physio content you see on socials. We are back for 2026. It is very exciting. My co-host James, you're here. It is a Sunday night. Mate, this is the last footy-free weekend for I hope it's 40 weeks or it's some ridiculous amount of time. You get towards the end of the footy, the final series is good, but I think that period between round 20 and 27 can become a bit of a drag. So you can kind of be a bit footied out, but mate, at the moment, I'm sure the Australian Open, Carlos Alcaraz and what's his name are playing it out at the moment, but just I love tennis, but just give me the footy. Good to have you, mate.
And Brien and you, it's good to hear your voice back on the socials again and back on the podcast again. And I'm sure everyone listening along would agree, hearing your voice again and obviously seeing you on the screen via the YouTube channel too. But Brien, what a season we had last year. I was recapping the other day with you and, for me personally, I'm going to selfishly indulge here. I got my favourite team winning the comp. I got a famous Queensland win. I got Australia winning the Ashes 4-1. My SuperCoach team, let's not talk about that, didn't go so well, but it was a pretty damn good 2025. So it's going to take some topping in 2026, but I'm keen. I'm saddled in. It's February. It's still hot, but it's kind of smelling a bit like footy season, isn't it? You can sort of smell the off season starting to wash over us a little bit, and we're going to start getting to troll footy. And mate, Vegas is not very far away, so it's going to come around very, very, very quick.
Mate, you're probably one of the only people or super coaches on earth to finish the year with a boost in the handbag as well, mate.
That's true.
What it's 2025.
One of my best. One of my best. Found my own loophole with that one, didn't I? It was just been a stupid, what.
Oh man, I can't remember which draft chat it was, but someone brought that up the other day, and I was like, I'd completely forgotten about that. But thank you so much for reminding me.
Yeah, fair call. I didn't need that reminder to be rinsed straight out of the gate for 2026. That's good. That's just taking me down a few notches. Because the Broncos' arrogance was getting a bit much. I'll need that a few times this year.
100%. For anyone who is watching on YouTube, unfortunately, we can't put the theme song on YouTube, but go along to Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your pods, because their theme songs had a little bit of a tweak. We've got our good friend Gus just in there one more time with the rundown, and it's so good to hear his voice. I hope people are enjoying the new theme song. And James, we caught up a few times over the off season, which was very, very enjoyable. But I think I got to make a special shout out. One of the best things, we sat down and we spoke a lot of rubbish, but one of the best rubbish conversations we had was that we found out that, the absolute legend of a man, Ray Stone, his sons are named Boris and Keith, and there could not be two more apt names for Ray Stone's sons. And I don't even know why I'm leading the podcast off with this, but that was definitely the most memorable thing I think that we spoke about in amongst a lot of rubbish. And I just wanted the Magic Sponge community to be aware of that.
Yeah, sensational name choices, Brien, and just on brand for rugby league. I just couldn't think of a kid I want to see running around in under sixes and under sevens called Boris Stone or Keith Stone. They're just good, solid rugby league names. They're going to be hard as nails as well. You got Ray Stone as your father, so of course genetically you're going to be blessed, but you're also going to have this just absolute toughness. I hope for Queensland spirit's sakes, they've been born in Queensland since Ray Stone's move up to the Finns, but I don't know. I know Ray Stone's a New South Wales born and bred player, but maybe we might see some stones kicking around for the Queensland boys in the future. Who knows?
Mate, Boris and Keith Stone would be edge back rowers for Queensland for 15 years.
Sign me up. Sign me up. Get a scholarship for those kids ASAP if you're an elite GPS school, by the way, just listening in.
Surely they're there before 12. What's the rules now? Before 12 and you get a tick in the right box. So,
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
First junior club. First senior club. Yeah.
All right. Plenty of rubbish, I'm sure, to come over the preseason, but let's get into the injuries. So for anybody new listening, we run through all the injury analysis of all the injuries in the NRL at the moment, or casualty ward, people in rehab, those kind of things. So usually we cover in-game injuries, review the big injury news and rehab news from the week, and we loop it all back to recovery time, on-field performance, and most importantly for many listening, SuperCoach and fantasy scoring. So we're big SuperCoach nuffies ourselves, so we'll always sort of talk in that SuperCoach realm, but I'm sure it's relevant for fantasy as well. So hopefully you guys get something out of it. But without further ado, let's get into the injury wrap for the off-season.
I don't know exactly what he's done. I would have thought it was an ankle, but I'm just guessing.
He shouldn't be out for a long period of time. I mean, I'm no doctor. We have to wait for the scans, obviously, but that'd be more positive than negative.
Off-season injury wrap-up, Brian. We're just getting sort of dipping our toes in here before the season proper kicks off. So we're going to begin through the teams in alphabetical order. We've just decided to do it that way before people come at me about being playing favourites for the Broncos here. So firstly, we've got the Bronx, and the three names on the list here: Brendan Piakura with meniscus surgery that he's coming back from, Josh Rogers with a calf tear, and then lastly, Xavier Willison with a rib cartilage concern. Brian, not sort of too concerned here from a SuperCoach point of view with many of these guys, are we?
Yeah, I think Josh Rogers 6 weeks, but he obviously wasn't probably getting a look in at the Bronx. Actually, do you know who was the guy they got from the Tigers, who was the backup half in recent years? I forget his name.
They had Jock Madden for
that's
a
it.
bit.
Is he still there?
But
He's gone?
no, I thought he went to the UK.
Yeah. I'll keep talking.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think Josh Rogers was anywhere there and about. So, but yeah, he'll be missing for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Xavier Willison, I think it was Xavier Willison has a rib cartilage issue that he's dealing with. Look, they're going to needle that up and get him through it. Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam also trained in non-contact jerseys this week, but I think that's, nothing too crazy at this point in the preseason. Brendan Piakura is the biggest one. So he had a meniscus tear, had meniscus surgery. They said up to 8 weeks, I think, initially. And then Brendan Piakura apparently commented on someone's Instagram post being like, I'm going to be back next week. So look, most meniscus surgeries, when they're a trim surgery, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. So he's a real good chance of being back for round one. Obviously won't play the World Club Challenge, but yeah, like a real good chance to be back for round one. So I think for anybody looking at ex-Dolphin, Orblix Talha, I don't know whether he'll get a big run in the side. Well, certainly on a starting edge position. What are your thoughts on Piakura versus Talha to start the season, mate?
Yeah, my sentiments haven't changed since last year, where I said just don't invest in Broncos edge back rowers for SuperCoach purposes. It hasn't really ever worked out. I don't see this year being too much different to that, to be honest, Brian. So I'm happy to leave the Broncos edges as they are at the present. We'll move on to the Canberra Raiders next, Brian. So only 2 names here we're going to talk through quickly. Xavier Savage with the shoulder concern, and then Coby Black, the recent signing, down from the Broncos with a neck or shoulder complaint. It might be, I think it's like a nerve, some nerve irritation, I think, from a neck perspective. Brian, do you want to fill in more details about Coby Black?
Yeah, so Savage, you don't have to worry about. I think he had Rico after some instability events last year, so he should be fine. We haven't heard any news about a setback. But Coby Black, yeah, a little bit concerning for him because he suffered it in December, but is still dealing with symptoms down into an arm. Mate, after what feels like 20 years, however long, of following the game where you didn't hear about too many brachial plexus injuries, which brachial plexus is the nerves that run from the neck down through the shoulder down into the arm. Now we've had Tom Flegler's coming back from one. Moses Leota is dealing with one at Penrith. We've got who will
Simon Dwyer back in the day, I guess.
Simon Dwyer he's the big one, right? But then
Rocco Berry was in there as well.
I was just about to say Rocco Berry, who we'll talk
Mm.
about soon. And now we've got Coby Black here. So he's still dealing with some sort of symptoms, still in the non-contact bib into January, which, just isn't ideal. So we know when we start to deal with these complex kind of neck nerve issues that the recovery is a bit all over the shop. So and that sort of comes in the report. The report was that, Canberra are hopeful that he'll be okay for round one, but there was certainly no he'll definitely be okay, which tracks. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on that. I wish we could give more. There's very little info about it at this point in time, whether it's a bulging disc in his neck. I'd almost kind of feel better if it was a bulging disc in his neck, with like a bit more predictable with the recovery times for those, whether it, needs a needle and injection, needs surgery, that it's a bit more finite. Whereas, like these kind of Tom Flegler, Rocco Berry kind of injuries where the nerves sort of running down through the shoulder get stretched or pinched quite significantly, bit all over the shop. So a bit of a real bummer for a guy who I thought was going to be the future of the Bronx and now potentially the future of the Raiders.
Yeah, it'd be one to watch and wait there for the Raiders. I guess they're going to take all the time they need there with a few other options. Next team is the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs, Brien. So we've got two names here. Mitch Woods, ascending 7, coming through the system there with a hamstring concern. And then favourite of the show here, the big Lebanese seeder, Jacob Kiraz. He's in the rehab group again. Bit more of a disrupted season last off-season with injury from memory, Brian. But what about Jacob Kiraz? He's probably a big ticket item for super coaches.
Mate, this is devastating for the number one ticket holder of the Jacob Kiraz fan club after he absolutely tore it up for me. His injury by the year in 2024, I think maybe. I've had 2 good years. So Jacob Kiraz, what a man. I was so huge on him coming into this year. So to hear this news only this morning from the great man Gus Gould was devastating, to say the least, because I swear it was like a month ago, Gus was saying, it's the best, best preseason he's ever had. I saw the Bulldogs put up a post on Instagram being like, all this hype footage of Jacob Kiraz. And I was like, lock him in to my side, lock him in as a top 5 draft pick, like sign me up. But now he's in the rehab group. So he's had the ongoing hip. I think it was supposed to be his back because he had the back stressies 2 years ago into 2023. And then between 24, he had a great 24. Then between 24 and 25, he had this ongoing issue that initially was thought to be the back, but then was said to be like a degenerative hip thing that Gus said he'd have to deal with for the rest of his career. So whether they're just managing that at this point in time, I did do a bit of sleuthing today while I was lying on the couch and I went back and had a look. He has been running around with his left shoulder heavily strapped. I don't know whether that's a regular thing for him or not. I didn't have enough sleuthing to go all the way back. So if there's anybody who's got time or is a big Bulldogs fan, does he usually get his left shoulder strapped? Because that may be a thing. Gus seemed confident that he'd be back for the second trial. So hopefully that's all good and we see some good stuff from him. We get some more detail. But as of now, he's locked and loaded into my side just because I can't quit him, and hopefully this is nothing to worry about. But I mean, he had those ongoing hip issues and missed the first 4 or 5 weeks of last year. So that would be devastating if that happens. Mate, does this news turn you off, Kiraz, or are you still okay?
No, not really. I think luckily they're in Vegas this year, so you're going to know early if you need to change your team. So I don't think it really matters too much. I think if the news isn't great, that obviously sucks because he's a gun, but then you just alternate and go somewhere different would be my take. They're the second game in Vegas against the Dragons this year, so not as big a concern to me. Next team, Brian, was Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks. So we've got Cam McInnes and Ronaldo Mulitalo here with ACLs. Prognostically worse for Ronaldo, given that he injured it so late last year in the Pac Champs. But Cam McInnes might be a bit of smoke around that he might be ready for round 1, which, just wouldn't surprise, given he's just an absolute weapon of a bloke. Like, just can get it done, Cam McInnes, hey?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing here is round 1 for him, I think, is around 7 months post-surgery, which in recent times would be a quick return because we have mostly seen teams waiting to around 9 months. But it's really important for people to know that's a change, because if you go back 10 years into the mid, probably 20, in the 2000s to the mid 2010s and even late 2010s, guys are coming back consistently at around 6 to 8 months. And as soon as 6 months, right? We had Jared Weir-Hargraves, like plenty of middle forwards do it at around that 6 month mark. So, I mean, theoretically, it is possible. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for McInnes. It would just be bucking a recent trend because we have seen, recent evidence come out that waiting to around that 9 months, there's a big decrease in re-injury risk, which is obviously a big priority for these guys. So I think it's a red hot chance that even if he doesn't, I think it's just him kind of hyping up the round 1 return. I don't know whether Cronulla medical staff have signed off on that, but the biggest thing for me is it's probably not going to be long till he's back into the season. It just gives me some pause on Colquhoun, who I've seen in a lot of people's sides. I think for Cam McInnes himself, even if whenever he comes back, he's going to ease back to that full workload, even though he's a middle forward. His game isn't heavily dependent on those ACL movements, maybe getting up off the line, changing direction. But apart from that, I will, before throwing to you, because I know you've got Colquhoun in and around your Supercoach side, Mulitalo is going to miss much of the season. So I think it makes Stone Street a very solid option for anyone looking at him. But yeah, mate, talk to me about how you're feeling about that McInnes news. Does that, as you said, if anyone's going to do it, it would be him. Isn't it? What was the thing? He mowing the yard the next day.
Yeah, the next day. Yeah, that was the yarn. I wish someone clipped that up or AI'd it in. That'd have been sick. It does turn me off a little bit on Colquhoun. I guess Colquhoun is 330k dual. I just thought he'd sort of walk into some minutes for a couple of months. Like if we just had that round 9 that 9-month return for Cam McInnes in mind. But, if he's coming back and he's named for round 1, I think you've got to look at alternative options there at front row or second row, respectively, depending on where you got him. I thought he's one of the cheaper options that was going to look into good minutes. Righto, Brien, we've got a big one next. The Dolphins. So a lot of names on this list because they were absolutely rinsed with injury last year, as we mentioned on the Magic Sponge many times. The names on the list tonight. So we got JMK, who's just coming back from meniscus surgery. Then we got Tom Gilbert, Dan Saifiti, and Tom Flegler with shoulder surgeries. Maxi Plath and Jack Bostock with ACL injuries. LJ Nonu with a PCL injury. And then Herbie Farnworth coming back from the fairly high-grade hamstring injury towards the end of last year as well. So where do you want to start with the Finns, mate? They're very good on paper this year, but we do have a lot of guys coming back from big-time injuries, don't we?
Mate, going through that list just is trauma dumping for me. It's just and I mean we could have probably had more, added more on there as well. We sit here at the start of every year, and I'm just like, man, if the Finns can stay healthy, they'll have a good side. And then Jeremy Marshall-King goes and tears his meniscus at home. He slipped at a barbecue or something, and I'm like, for fuck's sake, what? Yeah, it's not a good start to the year. I'm really high on their seat. This is probably the season where I've come in with the most hope, because I look at particularly our forward pack, and there's just a lot of depth there. There's guys who are going to miss out at the moment who are really solid. But yeah, it's just fool me once, shame on. How's it go? Whatever the saying is, I can't think of it right now. It's just happened too many times now. So yeah, JMK, he'll miss the first 4 to 6 weeks, they think. So I think he had a meniscus repair, which is where they go in and they stitch up the torn meniscus rather than taking out the torn piece. So that, for me, is good for the long term. For the short term, it just requires a longer recovery time, unfortunately. Tom Gilbert, Dan Saifiti, Tom Flegler. So Gilbert, he's going to be fine by all accounts. Saifiti had a setback in his recovery, so he's touch and go for round 1, so that he might, miss a couple of weeks there. Big one for me, mate, is Tommy Flegler. Fantastic news to hear that he's been cleared to return. That's obviously been a long time coming. From a really innocuous, what would have been a burner at the time, which, 99.9% of the time you just shake off and you keep going. It's hung around. He's had multiple surgeries. When I was looking up, trying to get a picture of him today for some content, came across a post from the Finns when he first heard it, and it was like a graphic of him, and it said, scan results good for Flegler, unlikely to need surgery on his shoulder injury.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and that was the best part of
700
2
days
years.
ago. Yeah.
And I'm like, far out to see that post And now look at where he is. It's just, oh man, it would have been just maddening for him. So great to see him cleared. But the question is going to be, what are the expectations with him? For me, he's in my side at the moment because I more lean towards re-injury risk being the unknown quantity because this is just an injury that we have not seen in the NRL to this severity and then sort of see a player come back. Like, it just hasn't really happened. We've had guys with lesser injuries, so like a Moses Leota, and he goes out week in and week out with a big pad on his shoulder to kind of protect it and protect it from re-injury. So re-injury risk mainly is just copping another knock directly to that area where the nerves are. But Flegler's is worse than that. So he's obviously got a greater re-injury risk than, say, someone like a Leota. But in terms of his conditioning, his minutes, like obviously match fitness is a big thing and there's no replication for that. But Flegler, by all accounts, has been absolutely flying around training since like February last year. Like he has just... I've had many people sort of say to me, if you didn't know and you just watched him at training, you would think that he was playing, but he just isn't involved in contact, those kind of things. So he's been in full contact now over the off season. I love it when players have a full off season to kind of build their way into a season off injury. So for me, and maybe it's a bit of homerism, but I just look at it and go, a former Maroons and, Kangaroos player for $350K, a bit along the Tino line of last year where throbbers throb. Like, he's just a peak athlete. He's a really good player. I'm happy in the front row to kind of just plug him in there and potentially just have him sit there as front row 3 or 4 if he does okay for the season and not waste trades in the front row is kind of my thought process behind that. But yeah, I mean, before I go to the other guys, mate, I know you're a bit more hesitant on Flegler, so I'd like to throw to you sort of straight off the bat. Is are my Dolphins glasses clouding me, or where are you at with him?
I don't think so. I share the same sentiments, but the only thing where I differ is just how many guys the Finns have. Like, when you look at their team, I just don't see how he's going to get meaningful minutes, if you know what I mean. That's probably my one hesitation with Flegler. So I'm sort of tossing up him or, maybe a Colquhoun in the front row position. I don't really have a strong sentiment either way. And, I think if Ken McInnes is back, a decision will get made for me anyway. But, yeah, I sort of want to see Flegler. I want to see what it's like, and I want to see the minutes. The minutes is the big one for me. I just don't know where they're going to come, honestly.
Yeah. Look, mate, I forgot the point of how good the Dolphins are, so thank you for bringing
that up. They are shaping up with a little hot squad there, mate.
But, yeah, I think, from both of us there, then I would say the overall thing to people listening is I wouldn't be overly concerned about him being eased in physically. Like, I think physically, he'll have a couple of trials under his belt. And you'll probably get a good idea there. But we're not great judges or have any inside word on how minutes are going to shape out from a coaching decision standpoint. But I guess it would more be, trying to find out, have a look at the makeup of the bench. Is there a hooker on the bench, which I think there probably will be early on, potentially with JMK. Because when they're full strength and JMK is playing 9, it's probably going to be Kurt Donahue, but Kurt Donahue is probably going to play lock for a fair bit, play in the middle. So that'll take minutes away from Flegler as well. So more, I guess, from a physical standpoint, you take the big concern for me is re-injury risk rather than performance or workload necessarily. It's like if he cops a knock in the wrong spot, is he just Gornsky? And in that case, I mean, I love my rules, and the turbo rule is why not just start with him, and then you've only got to waste one trade to get rid of him, rather than trying to bring him in if he has a good start, and then you're playing around with 2 or 3 trades. So that's why I go there. Max Plath, Jack Bostock. Yep, Max Plath's apparently pushing for round 1, which also doable. I think round 3 is 9 months for him. So like round 1, you're only shaving off 2 weeks. It's not that controversial, and especially with JMK out, they're going to need some hooking help in around there. I'm not expecting him to go gangbusters straight off the bat. It's going to be an ease back in, and then Bostock around round 8 or so, mate. I tell you what, that opens up is like, I just think Selwyn Throbo. What's the rig based selection? What's he going to do to start the season? I'm real excited as a Finns fan to see that. LJ Nonu, PCL injury. He's out for 8 weeks, but he probably wasn't going to feature. And then Herbie, there was a big one. There was a fan day yesterday or the day before. He apparently had his hamstring iced up really heavily. Now, I spoke to some people around the Finns, and it was very clear that, you're kidding yourself. It was just, he's just icing something from after training or whatever. But yeah, something to look out for. I'm not overly concerned about him if he hasn't had an aggravation. Like if it's just the hamstring injury from last year, yeah, there's a slight re-injury risk, but it's not huge considering he doesn't typically have a history of major hamstring issues. But I'm going to be digging into my all my sources in around the Finns to try and find out if there was a fresh hamstring injury, because that would set off alarm bells for me if there was a concern there. Hey, what's your tip on Throbo, mate? Is he going to be any good for us, or?
Oh, mate, I am. You know me, I'm always about selling Cobbo, and I seriously hope he can just make that position his own, because when he's on, and I think Bostock had a very good try scoring rate. I think also they had who was subbed in there last year at the end of the year and got 3 tries in the game.
Tavita, no,
yes,
Ahu, I think,
I think, yeah. Like there's opportunities there on that left edge, and when you got the 7 and 6 playing like they were, and Hammer at 1, they got strike everywhere. I just love to see him lock down the left, well, left wing as well, because I don't think at the Broncos he was always played at right wing, which I don't know if it's his best spot. He played right wing in Origin as well. He's got that natural left hand carry. Everyone's like, oh, shades GI there, and I just think he's always been better on the left. So maybe if he can just get that position and lock it down, I'd love to see it. I really would. I'd be right on it for SuperCoach, that's for sure, if I could get him in and around the boys. All right, we'll move on from the Finns to the Gold Coast Titans, Brien. So bad luck to start off here for Jaimin Jolliffe, who's got an ACL injury. He's done ski for the year. The next name on the list, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, is a knee clean out. So that's on his previously operated ACL side as well, which it is. And we've also got Cooper Bai with a concussion concern, and AJ Brimson with an AC joint injury here. So not good news for Josh Hannay and the Titans to start with Jaimin Jolliffe. He played some good footy to the end of last year.
Mate, I thought he was actually he would have been one of my, our draft approach is usually especially your second front row position, just leave it till right at the end. He was going to be one of my guys that I targeted because I thought he was in for a big one. Just devastating for him. So he will miss the entire season. And the positive is, or the silver lining, sorry, I should say, is that he'll have the full off season to kind of build his fitness into 2027, which is one slight positive there. Go through Cooper Bai had a concussion in a car accident driving to Titans training. So just got to go through the protocols there. He wears headgear though, James. So, he should be fine moving forward. AJ Brimson, AC joint injury playing for England, but he didn't need surgery for it, as most of them don't. So he'll be fine moving into next this season. And then Tino, the knee clean out, mate. I could not be higher on Tino. This knee clean out does give me 5% pause, but we knew about that, and I was like, oh, maybe not Tino. And then Jaimin Jolliffe did his ACL, and I was just like, who else are the Titans? It's the opposite situation to your Flegler one, where you're going where's he going to get minutes? It's how do they take Tino off the field? I don't even know.
It's 60 guaranteed, isn't it? Minimum. Like probably up from there. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I just don't see him coming off the field. The clean out, yes, they go in, remove scar tissue, maybe clean up a meniscus, those kind of things. All those are more mid to long term concerns. So like kind of at the back end of his career, potentially for a Perth Bears to worry about if they're going to sign him to like a $2 million a year deal, which it sounds like they may do.
He's got 10 years at the coast. You're right. Really? Jesus Christ.
Well, even there was some talk about the Storm throwing some cash at him because they've got some guys leaving. But more mid to long term. I'm really high on Tino heading into this year, mate. How do you feel about Tino personally?
Yeah, big. I just don't think you can go wrong there. He's proven gun as Supercoach. He carries the Gold Coast Titans. He's everything you want. Skipper of the club, leader, does the damn thing for Queensland every single time he puts the jersey on. I just love everything about him. So yeah, I'd be keen on him starting. The duel would be the help there, which he probably should get fairly quickly. You just hope
I think
he gets named
Randall.
at 10. Yeah,
well, I think Randall and Cleese Haas. There was some article the other day that they're training at 13. So I'm like, beautiful. So like,
perfect. If he's wearing 8 and 10, even better because you get the duel, which is very, very handy for Supercoach purposes. Next team is the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. So the three names we've got here, Hamole Olakau'atu and Ruben Garrick both had shoulder surgeries in the offseason. And Taniela Paseka is coming off the Achilles injury. He came back late last year, though, Brian, didn't he? He played 1 or 2 games towards the back end of last year, I think.
I think they shut him down. I think they were
shut him down
about it. They were talking
close,
about it.
wasn't it? Yeah. But maybe they were out of contention, so they shut him down.
Yeah, and like smart
sensible
teams
thing to do, by the way, Brian. Smart teams do that. And when you have good coaching like Anthony Seibold, that's the sort of decisions you should see getting made. I'll say that out front.
Who would have thought there's a component of coaching that we put Anthony Seibold ahead of Wayne Bennett?
Yes.
Would you believe it? Because I think this one little thing of like, do you return a forward in round 27 coming off an Achilles injury?
Yeah.
Do you do it? Yes or no? And Seibs ticked the no box, and that wins him that competition. Oh boy. Olakau'atu and Garrick, not many concerns. I think the biggest concern here is kind of how, like, with Garrick, it's around the goal kicking and does he keep that? Olakau'atu, it's like, does Jamal Fogarty hit him short as much as DCE did? What's their connection like? So I don't think there's many concerns from a injury physical standpoint. Paseka with the Achilles, if he was, I'm not overly concerned because he's had the off season once again to kind of build through, and middle forwards, they do require a fair bit of leg drive. And so some heavy Achilles movements, but Paseka is one of those guys where, at the moment he's 300 and something K. I don't think you can go too wrong with him. If he was like 450, I'd be like, no go, definitely not. But yeah, at 3 something, I just think he's it's only really upside at that point. And especially because I don't think Manly have a plethora of gun middle forwards either. So where do you stand on those guys, mate?
Yeah, I think Paseka's the no-brainer out of all of them. I think, there's probably a few question marks for Hamole and Ruben, as you just said before, but Paseka's just straight in. He'll be one of the most highly rostered guys for Supercoach, I would say, by the time it's all said and done. Next team, Brian, was the Melbourne Storm. So we've got Xavier Coates here with the Achilles concern, and we've got Jerome Hughes and Jack Howarth with their shoulder surgeries. And Eli Katoa is the big story of the Pacific Championships, that horrible, brain injury that he sustained there. Where do you want to start for the Melbourne Storm here, Brian? There's always fantasy relevant guys from the Storm, aren't they? They're just that sort of team. They churn out big scoring points each and every week, but these 4 are no different. They're all fantasy relevant.
Yeah, mate, I'm thankful we weren't podcasting over the Eli Katoa incident for many reasons. I think it would have been
cool thy jets sort of areas.
Yeah, correct. Like it would have been tough for us to not get too fired up about certain things. So look, like I think overall just great to see him back, around the team recently into some form of training, some form of being active, those kind of activities, which is great. People sort of saying, he could come back this year. Like, I don't see that being a reality with this kind of head injury. I I did a lot of research at the time to I've had one guy who I spoke to who plays like club rugby, and he has one guy at his club who came back after that surgery. And that's the only case of like any form of contact sport that I've heard after something like that in my personal career. There have been examples in professional sport, UFC. There was a rugby player as well, rugby union player, who came back, but they were, long recoveries. I think Peter Cech, who was a goalkeeper, he wore a headgear for the rest of his life because not necessarily for the concussion risk, but to protect his skull and those kind of things. So I just think the specialists have come out and said likely next year, or ruled out for this year, and Melbourne have come out and said the same. I don't see any reason why they would tell fibs about that or necessarily push that. But yeah, just great. I think overall, just great to see him doing well, because that injury type can have catastrophic consequences. It's not just, obviously death is definitely a thing. And I think at the time there was definite medical emergency signs there from certain things that were coming out, but like even just permanent disability is absolutely a possibility with those kind of things. So glad to see that it's even a chance that he potentially could come, or get back into any form of activity that he wants to, whether that be footy or whatever he wants to do. So yeah, all the best to Eli Katoa, and I'm sure we'll talk about him at different points when we see, rehab progress over the next 12 months. Jerome Hughes and Jack Howarth with their shoulder surgeries, they're both like with any of these shoulder reconstructions, and I'd say the same with Olokoatu and Ruben Garrick and any of these shoulder recos, it actually gives me quite a bit of confidence about these guys with re-injury risk in regards to re-injury risk, because the re-injury rate after these shoulder recos is like below 5%. So it's so it's quite low. So not really concerned about either of those guys. I think if anything, I'm actually quite high on Jack Howarth and Jerome Hughes from the perspective of playing through those kind of things. It would have been not great for their performance. Particularly Jack Howarth, I think was pretty limited at times by it. He also had the groin abdominal thing where they found the tumor and like all this kind of stuff. So Jack Howarth, a good bounce back candidate for me personally. And I think Jerome Hughes should be obviously a lot better, not playing through a broken arm and dislocated shoulder and all those kind of things this time around. Xavier Coates not really worried about the Achilles. He should have sorted that over the off-season. How do you feel about Hughes and Howarth, mate? I'm sure you're high on them too.
Yeah, I am big on both. I'm especially high on Jerome Hughes, and we'll talk about him in more depth a little bit later on, but I'm massive on Jerome this year, and I'll speak to that a bit later on. We'll move forward to the Newcastle Knights here, Brien. So a bit of a shake-up this off-season for the Knights and a few guys coming on. So we're going to talk about Kalen Ponga and Dylan Lucas with their respective foot injuries from last year. Then Fletcher Sharp was obviously, missed majority of last year with that spleen and kidney injury. That was very quite an unusual injury that we don't see very much. And then Dom Young, probably a bit of an update with him with the broken foot there for the Knights, Brien.
Yeah, so to fly through, Dom Young broke his foot playing for England. Not overly concerned about that. Fletcher Sharp with the spleen/kidney issues should be fully over that. He had the whole season off, justifiably, but he should be fine. And then Dylan Lucas, no real concerns, or we haven't heard about any setbacks about his foot. The guy who, is the top of the list here is Kalen Ponga, because definitely not planned to go out of the boot, but like be doing really well off the back of the Liz Frank surgery, comes back, starts preseason, is winning fitness tests at the start of preseason in November there. And then all of a sudden he's back in the boot again, suffering from foot pain. Scans reveal bone bruising, which bone bruising is effectively a bone stress injury. So it's your bones telling you that, hey, we've got like an abnormal amount of force going through a certain area, or too much, we've got some weakness in the bone developing that could easily develop into a stress fracture or a real problem. So deload, try and get as much pressure off it as possible, i.e. going back into the boot, bringing things back. He's back in training now, and by all accounts is going well, but saw some photos at times where the size and the difference in the size of his calves was quite significant not too long ago, things like that. So, yeah, I've just got, I guess, a little bit of concern. I had KP when when SuperCoach came out. I had KP definitely in my mind as he was going to be in my side. But now there's talk like he won't kick off the back of the foot issue and getting back into the swing of things. You got Sandon Smith, who is a bit of a sharpshooter, potentially going to play halfback. So yeah, there's just a bit of uncertainty around KP. I was all about him about 4 weeks ago, and then since then I found out about this bone bruising thing. Also, there's chatter around he's going to lose the goal kicking. So I'm just the next like 2 weeks, especially because they play, as you say, play Vegas. So we'll get to know a bit more about where things are at leading into Vegas, which is good. But yeah, I'm definitely not as hot on KP as I was 4 weeks ago. What about yourself, mate?
My biggest thing hinges on whether, Dill Brown plays 7, Fletcher Sharp plays 6, and he plays 1, because then he's probably kicking. But if Sandon Smith is, playing 7, I don't know. I kind of like Dill Brown and Fletcher Sharp. I think that can work. And I think KP and Crossland, that's a pretty good little spine. Like, Crossland played 9 for the Kiwis last year, being Pac champs. Like, it's not a bad setup. But if they, choose to go maybe the Dill Brown at 6, then Sandon Smith plays 7, and Fletcher Sharp might be in the outside back somewhere, I suppose. Like, he might be on the wing, potentially for Dom Young or Marcy. I'm not too sure. And he has been a goal kicker in the lower grades, Fletcher Sharp, I believe. But then Sandon Smith's probably going to do it off the tee. So it would be big concerns if that's the way that they shaped up. I just want to believe it so much with KP, because when he's on, that Dally M season was just unbelievable. And, the 2 Liz Frank injuries were just unlucky. He just got foot caught up into, high eversion stress sort of positions under a tackle. Yeah, and they just need him to come good, don't they? They're just desperate to sort of get the best out of him. He would have been seeing what Reece Walsh did last year with the Broncos and felt like far out. Here's a guy who's just come in and just put the team on his back and won a comp. I don't know. He's in my team at the moment, Brian, but I don't feel great about it as it stands. But he's dirt cheap, so I don't know. Do you just roll it out? But if he's not goal kicking, you do lose that ceiling. So I'm not sure. I don't know. What do you think about KP at the moment? Do you think leave him for now, or do you think maybe just take an alternative pathway?
Mate, I fullback as per usual. I like about 10 different guys, so it's it's a tough one to kind of squeeze everyone in. As of today, when I made my team, he isn't in there at the moment, but could very easily, if we hear news that Sandon Smith's going to start off the bench and it's going to be Fletcher Sharp in the halves, and that means KP will be kicking or something like that, then sign me up. But at the moment, I've probably got 3 guys who I like better at this point. But it's sure, yeah. You're splitting hairs with a lot of those fullbacks. That's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Next one is the Wars from over the ditch. So Mitchie Barnett and Luke Metcalf are coming back from ACL injuries. Rocco Berry was a shoulder surgery, and Tane Tuapiki was a leg injury from earlier this offseason, Brian. So who do you want to update on here? And I guess probably the first 2 boys coming off ACL are the ones who have a bit of SuperCoach pedigree, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Mitch Barnett is looking like round 1 to 3, so pretty early in the season. Look, I'm still... Once again, you look at the Tino rule of throbbers throb, and Mitch Barnett is absolutely a throbber. But he is, I think, a couple of things. He's pushing to return round 1, whereas Tino had plenty of time. He had that off season to kind of build that fitness, whereas Mitch Barnett kind of doesn't have that. He's kind of returning right on that 9 months for round 1-ish. And then 2, there's so many middle forwards at the Wars. They don't need him to come in and play 60 minutes. Whereas for the Titans, they needed Tino, to do that. So yeah, I'm a little bit more hesitant on him heading into the season. I still think he's going to be great, but just in terms of thinking he's going to, outperform last year, what we saw last year. I just don't think, he's healthy last year for most of it. He's priced as such for a SuperCoach perspective. So yeah, I'm just I think there'll be a little bit more of a softening up period. And then Luke Metcalf, he's round 8-ish, very, very heavy ACL game, lots of change of direction, those kind of things. So yeah, I think we are likely to see the best of Metcalf in 2027 or maybe late 2026, because they definitely don't need to rush him back with the depth that they have at half. Or in the halves, I should say. Rocco Berry, I did hear someone sort of found out that the way Rocco describes it is that he has a similar injury to Flegler, just not as bad. And he did require surgery. They haven't said what surgery, but once again, probably a brachial plexus type injury. So the nerves running down to the arm. I don't think it sounds like he needed nerve transfer surgery like Flegler necessarily, but he just had ongoing issues last year. So yeah, once again, the recovery for those is very, very varied. And the New Zealand have said they're not they're hopeful that he'll be back early, but they're not quite sure. And then Tane Tuapiki apparently suffered a fractured leg on his farm. So we've got him and JMK suffering these injuries at home. Not sure on when it happened or the severity, but apparently he's back running now. So he shouldn't be far away, but all reports are that Chance is going to start at fullback to start the season.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think there's anything I think from a Metcalf perspective, I just don't think even in draft there's really much appeal there for me because you have to roster him for so long. Second ACL, he had the tibial nail as well. I think there's just a few things starting to stack up there for Metcalf that I'd probably just be happier knowing I'm not going to roster him this year and move on to alternative options would be the way I take it on. The Cowboys next, Brian. So we've got Jeremiah Nanai and Griffin Neame both coming off shoulder surgery. And then Tom Chester with his MCL injury. This is off the back of an ACL reconstruction in the off-season as well. Bit of an update here for the Cows.
Yeah, Tom Chester, I think, is a very popular cheapie for SuperCoach circles. He's coming back off the ACL, so he has had the off-season to kind of build his fitness because he suffered it in December 24, so not last year, the year before, then had all of 25 off. So, I was actually pretty confident in the likes of him, Hylam Lukey, for example, coming back from their ACL injuries because they were so long ago. They're kind of, what's that, like 15 months post-surgery returning. So, but he suffered an MCL injury. There hasn't been any concrete reports, but I have heard that it's looking minor and he might even, play the second trial. So, for those who wanted him as a cheapie, he might still be an option. Nanai and Neame are both Nanai is going to miss the start of the season because his shoulder reco happened after the Pac champs. So, usually a 3 to 5 month recovery. Obviously his is going to be on the 5 month end is what they're kind of indicating. And then Neame had a setback. I think he had a post-op infection, but he's pushing for round 1. So both of those guys come I guess with it falling so soon in terms of they're pushing to return back round 1 or for Nanai pushing to return back round 4. Probably less so with Nanai because he's less of a workload guy, right? But someone like Neame, he needs that workload to be a relevant kind of SuperCoach guy. So I'm not expecting much there. And I just expect them to kind of ease into it. Lukey's the guy, mate, though. I know you are big on him. If he can somehow figure out how to get Todd Payton to coach adequately.
It's just getting picked, isn't it? That's the thing with that edge spot. I just look at Lukey. He's just got to be a no-brainer there to you or I, but who knows what's going through Todd Payton's head. I don't know if he thinks the same way. The only thing I would say with Griffin Neame and that sort of middle rotation, Brian, you look at the Cowboys on paper, it doesn't look good. It looks like a wooden spoon sort of type roster to me, to my eyes. And I sort of just wonder with the Cowboys, are we just looking over Ruben Coulter here a bit in that he's just going to play 80 in the middle? Maybe. I don't know. I think for draft especially, you'll get Ruben Coulter very, very late in drafts because he didn't average very well last year. And not a very glamorous game. Let's be honest. Like, he's just a super pig, does all the hard work and all the yakka. But I just wonder if there's a play for getting Ruben Cotter in your second row spot, and he might get that duel, and you might be able to get a few, mid-50s, early 60 points out of him for a few weeks. I don't actually mind that as a play, because the Cowboys don't buy until round 15 anyway. So Ruben Cotter could play foreseeably all the way through to the first Origin, and you'd be sort of happy to do that from a draft setup. I don't know about standard if you'd be as keen, but I don't actually know what he's priced in at standard, because I haven't even looked at him until then. So I'll have a look at that and get back to you in a second once we talk about the Eels, Brian. So the only name on the Eels is Bailey Simonson. So he's coming back from the ankle injury here. So update for Bailey there, if that's all good.
Yeah, mate, just he ended up in a boot, but just lateral ankle sprain from what has been reported so far. So shouldn't cost him too much time. He should be back in time for round 1. I'll go back and then I'll go forward. So going back with the Cowboys, like, all of the things you say are completely logical. I just can't trust. The Cowboys are a team for me. I'm just avoiding the plague at the moment, because I just don't know. I cannot predict what Todd Payton's going to do. I've got no idea. I don't know if anybody outside of Todd Payton's brain could predict. So that's going back. Going forward, I know you're going to go on to the Penrith Panthers and you're going to go straight past them because there's just no injuries on the list. And even on the NRL casualty ward, it's like Penrith Panthers, no injuries. I'm like, how do these guys keep doing it? How? Year in and year out. Like, they have some big injuries, don't get me wrong, but they are consistently on the bottom of the injury ladder. Like, consistently. They are just killing it. So congrats to the medical and performance staff there, because you are doing something right, because they are, really, once again, the Panthers. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's just not a fluke now, Brian. Like, you could say, oh, they've got a bit of a lucky run for a few years, but this team is just never nursing big casualty wards. So, like you said, it's a credit to everyone involved in the squad there. But we need to move on to a team that has been decimated over the last few years with injury, which isn't probably a coincidence. It's the South Sydney Rabbitohs. So we've got a few names on the list here. So we've got Keon Koloamatangi, knee surgery is listed here. Latrell Mitchell with the calf concern of recent note. Dave Fafita nursing a rib cartilage concern. Bud Sullivan with some sort of injury. I'm not too sure exactly what Bud Sullivan's nursing. Not much detail there. Ed Clossy on the wing there with an ankle concern. And Campbell Graham with the back concern. Brian, we've got a few here. And pretty much every South Sydney player is fantasy relevant this year because they scored relatively poorly last year. So a lot of them are really attractively priced, and if they've got their full complement of players, they're actually not a bad little squad on paper, and you get Wayne Bennett sprinkling in the dust, and all of a sudden you're like, well, could be something here. Who knows? So they're going to be they're so interesting for SuperCoach. They're really going to make or break so many people this year, the Bunnies, aren't they?
Mate, it's a very, very interesting prospect, because they have just had an all-time nightmare of 3 years, at least 2 years, potentially 3 years with injury. So it's like, is that going to reverse? Is it just all-time bad luck? Is it something, is there a big power station emitting EMF, which we'll address later in a new segment for the listeners? But yeah, I'm very keen on a few of them, but it's just, what's going on with this injury toll? Let's run through. Bud Sullivan has some sort of, I think he had a setback in rehab. He fractured his leg last year, I believe. I might be getting that wrong, but he's had a bit of a setback. Ed Cossie is in a moon boot, so he's having a bit of trouble. You're more like SuperCoach and fantasy relevant guys. So Campbell Graham he had the back issue late last year. He's been limited at training with, I'm not sure whether it's the back issue again, whether they're just managing him through once again like a Jacob Kiraz, like a back stress injury or something like that, and building his loads. By all accounts, he's been a bit better more recently, so I'm hoping we get a bit more concrete word on that. Dave Feeder had a rib issue, but that was nothing major. He was back at full training within a week. Keon Koloamatangi had a knee surgery coming off a clean out, coming off the back of Kangaroos. I just don't think it's major. Like they were saying 12 weeks recovery for a clean out. I'm like, I just don't see how the Rabbits would have, maybe they would let him do it because it seems like they just let injured guys do whatever. But I just don't see how, if it's going to be a 12-week recovery, they would have let him go and go overseas and those kind of things. Surely you just get him in and get done. Most clean outs are like 6 weeks, if that. So I'm not really concerned about him heading into the season. I think he's someone I'm pretty high on. The guy who is the enigma, mate, and year in and year out, you and I are just sky high on him, and take away the fact that he just suffered another calf injury. If we can just put the blinkers on and pretend that didn't happen, I was all in on a Latrell Mitchell available at CTW. Like, sign me up. But, mate, another calf issue. It's minor. He's back running really well at training. But it's like last year, we heard the all off season. It's the best Latrell's looked. Amazing, so good. And then he suffered like an 8-week calf injury. And it just, is it Groundhog Day, mate? I know it's minor, but it gives me so much hesitation towards him. But he definitely fits into the category of, if he's named in round 1, I would rather pick him and only waste one trade to get him out than if you don't have him and he just starts I have this concept in my head that potentially they could have Gray back there to do all the hard stuff, to bring the ball back and all that kind of thing. And then when it gets into the attacking 20, Latrell's just swooping both sides. And oh man, that'd be insanity. So I'm still probably going to pick him if he's named round 1, but I do that just purely because of the sky high upside that I'd love to think that he has. But how are you feeling about him?
Yeah, questionable. I don't have him in as it stands, but really, you probably can't go without him. Goal kicking, the Bunnies look better on paper. He's got the magic there. They do shift it left a lot, and he's going to be playing left center. So, you probably can't really say no. I don't have him at the moment, but I'd have to shuffle the deck chairs to see what it looks like, to be honest. But you know me, Brian, I'm a sucker for Latrell Mitchell. I love watching him play. Just last year against the Broncos, when he just kicked that 40-meter field goal in the pissing rain. Or was it 40 or 50? It might have been 50. And he just drilled his field
60,
goal
mate.
from the next suburb. And then there was obviously that try at the very end where the Broncos just clocked off and gave up, and he put a down Supercoach day into a great Supercoach day because he had a 33-point play at the very end of the game. He's just one of those guys that just, when they come in chunks. And yeah, you might get some weeks where he's sort of at that floor because he's not playing fullback, but it's not like he was returning heaps at fullback anyway. He wasn't taking huge carries and huge hit-ups, and he'll have to do a bit of defensive work. So I think it'll probably balance out in the wash. I don't think you'll see that much of a downtick. It might just be the attacking ball and maybe the try assist, because his ball playing is really underrated. He's such a good ball player, Latrell Mitchell. So yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of a ding, but maybe not as much as you anticipate. So he's probably one you got to look at getting into your sides, I would assume. St. George Dragons are nearly at the end of things here, Brian. So we've got Jacob Little. He had a high-grade hamstring injury this offseason. Then we've got Toby Couchman and Val Holmes with the shoulder surgeries. Then we've got Ryan Couchman and Dylan Egan with ACL injuries. Obviously, they were blowing up things for Supercoach last year. But, yeah, I guess they were ACL concerns, Brian, which sucks for them and their trajectory this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, mate, I think Ryan Couchman was really early in 2025, so he should be fine. We'll have had the whole offseason to kind of build. Dylan Egan, they're going to take their time with him, though. So I think they were saying around 10 or something like that, which should be over 10, 11 months post-surgery. So whether a few of the Dragons' timeframes have confused me, like the Jacob Little grade 3 hamstring injury, which is usually a complete rupture of the hamstring or, full thickness tear somewhere. And they were saying, we're hoping to have him back in 5 weeks. And I was like, that doesn't really match. You're usually looking at 6, 8 plus, sometimes up to 12 weeks for a grade 3 hamstring, true grade 3. So, not really sure what's going on there. But Dylan Egan, I'd expect a gradual, he might even return through Cup just to, get his legs again. Val Holmes, no real concerns coming off the shoulder. He had surgery nice and early. Toby Couchman's the one for me, mate. I actually love Toby Couchman heading into this year. I think he is someone who is right in and around the injury by the year chat. I think he did so well last year in some games that it's probably going to just make him miss that injury by the year. But he just was so affected by that shoulder, like re-injury 3 or 4 times, limited minutes, these kind of things. So I just think the sky's the limit for Toby this year. I'm really big on him. I don't think the Dragons have the most stacked pack in the world. Love Toby Couchman heading into 2026. How do you like that call, mate?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all, actually. Like, I think he's probably not one I've been looking at very closely for my setup. So I just feel like did he get a lot of 80-minute games last year from memory? I don't have any stats to back it off the top of my head, but yeah, he's just someone that I haven't put a lot of sort of setup time into, to be honest, to get him in my sort of set teams for now. So I doubt I will run him out, to be honest, with the way that my thing's set up. So I'll talk about that in a jiff. Second to last, Brien, is the Sydney Roosters here. Rob Toyer with a foot concern, and Nat Butcher had repeat MCL injuries last year. I think he had about 3 of them last year. Did he end up getting surgery on that MCL, Brien? Is what Nat Butcher ended up having in the
Yes,
in
he
the
did.
end? Yeah, there was so many, wasn't there?
Yeah, heaps. But yeah, not concerned about either of those guys. I think Toyer didn't need surgery for his, and then Butcher, after getting that, like the return from that is really, really good, a MCL reconstruction, so he should be fine.
Yeah, and lucky last is the West Tigers with Latu Finu coming off shoulder surgery there. Brien, any big updates for Latu Finu? He's a little bit interesting from a, where does it fit in the spine perspective for the Tigers, isn't it?
Well, he doesn't fit, mate, because Dewey,
thing.
the king, is at number 7. He's got it locked down. So sorry, Latu. You're up against a better man. That's simply where we can plant our flag, because Adam Dewey, what a player. I'll still never regret picking him in round 1 of 2023 or whatever it was. Fantastic. But yeah, look, no concerns for Latu. Just up Adam Dewey. What a fella.
Yeah, what a gun. Always, just never wrong, Brien. Just early, as we always say here on the Sponge. Right, Brien, we're going to out sort of get away from all the injury off-season updates and go into the questions proper. So thank you again for everyone for submitting these through the social channels and the Magic Sponge to Brien, and we'll ask a few of them tonight. So, Brien, we've got about, how many got on the list? Geez, close to a dozen, maybe 10 to a dozen off an estimate. First question is from Nathan Brien. He says, do you think Tino's 2025 average was impacted by his 2024 ACL injury? Do you see any upside this year in him from a Supercoach perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few of these questions, sorry, we ranted on a bit earlier. We probably answered a few of them, but yeah, like big on Tino. I think, yeah, look, he was so good last year, but the scary thing is that, he could get even better. I think when we did the stats on Pat Carrigan, who was the previous, amazing return from an ACL, he actually didn't improve heaps from first to second year. He was just so good in the first year, and he kind of just kept it going in the second year. So, I'm less bullish on Tino from that fact, and more just like as soon as Jolliffe suffered his ACL injury, I was just like, Tino is just swallowing minutes at that club. So yeah, like I think there's upside, but I just think from a Paddy Carrigan example, I think these guys are getting back to their best even sooner when they have that off season to kind of build their performance, which Tino did. So yeah, definitely upside. What about you, mate? You're on board the Tino train?
Yeah, absolutely. When you said swallowing minutes, all I could think of was like Homer Simpson when he gets like put into hell and the devil shoveling in like donuts into his mouth and he's just consuming them for all it's worth. That's just going to be Tino in minutes this year. He's just going to be eating minutes all season and putting up big numbers with that as well. So that would be my take. Totally agree with you. Second question here, Brian's from Ross. He says, is it likely Tom Flegler will have his minutes managed on his return? Are you worried about performance or re-injury risk? We touched on this a little bit early. Any other things you wanted to update there about Tom Flegler?
Yeah, no, I think we covered it. I'm more worried about re-injury risk and the uncertainty. Like, we don't even have a percentage. I could not tell you a percentage because there's literally just has not been a player return from this surgery that we know of and play in the NRL. So yeah, the unknown is quite high. But yeah, I don't think his minutes will be managed from like a physical standpoint much necessarily. I think it's more the team makeup. So he's still in my side because up the Fins, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Up the Fins. Question on 3, Brian's from Guru. So he says, what are your confidence levels like on Keanu Keeney this year after his return from that serious neck injury?
Mate, the frosts and fades next week got some really, really good, some good research on Keanu Keeney. He's going to be in and around some discussions around a potential by the year candidate because yeah, I'm huge on him this year. I think and look, first to say, like, not necessarily egg on our face from the perspective of I still cannot believe he played at the end of last year. Like that, I'll stand by that. I'm happy to stand by that take because I just did not see the upside to that situation. But like, I remember even when they were describing, and this is probably me falling for a little bit of the mayo that, is put on these things, but they were saying this necking, like, like it's so bad, potential retirement, these kind of discussions. And I'm thinking, oh man, like we've seen guys come back from those cervical, ACDFs, the disc replacements, and be really hesitant into contact. It just is not there with Keeney from what we saw late last year. So he was, if not my first picked, he was my second picked in my side, and he will be soaring up draft boards for me as the off season or the preseason rolls on. Yeah, I'm huge on him, and I don't think he'll be that affected by it at this point in time. Where are you planting your flag on Keeney, mate?
Big as well. I think everyone's going to own him this year. He's a no-brainer to me. And
It
he's
should be
form the
100%
pack
owned,
champ.
hey,
Yeah, he should be. Yeah, and the form the pack champs was like surprisingly good. So, that only bodes well for this year. But I do agree with you with like why were the Titans playing him? Don't really know, but all bodes well for this year, hopefully. So yeah, that's where I'd sit on Keanu Keeney. Next question, Brian's from Ethan. He says, do you see any Achilles forwards like Paseka or Murray having good returns this season?
Yeah, I think Paseka we've touched on. Cam Murray, he's just he's going to be Cam Murray, I would say. While I'm not negative on him, like I don't think he's going to have a bad year necessarily, I'm also not expecting like mega, him to be back to his best this season, kind of the first season back. Yeah, can go back and listen to me say like he's had the whole off season to build his performance, but Achilles are just tough. And I think if Cam Murray was 350K like Paseka is, he'd be in my side 1000%. But I'm pretty sure he's like 500 and something K, isn't he?
Yeah,
like
20 or something like that.
That's just a no go
somewhere
for me. Off an Achilles, I just need to see it. I need to see it from him. So I've seen him in quite a few sides, but I just think, yeah, I don't have enough confidence in Murray coming off an Achilles, which is tougher. I'd actually be way more confident if he's coming off an ACL. Yeah, Achilles, just the explosiveness can be zapped a little bit. So yeah, I just want to see it from Murray. What about you?
I think so too. I just wonder where, the thing that really gives me hesitation with Cam Murray is the fact that there seems to be prevailing thought that you play him on an edge and that's his spot. And I just don't agree with that. I just feel like he's a 13, he's a middle. That's where you get the best out of him. But I just have this weird I wonder what Wayne's going to do there because there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of competition for those forward spots, but I just don't know where they're going to slot him in. And if he plays on an edge, I just don't think you're going to see great returns because of that. So I would just wait and see what shakes out in the Charity Shield. That'll tell you the story. If he's getting good minutes there, then that's wheels up. I think Paseka's going to have a pretty good season. Like, I think there's not much at Manly there. He was pretty good the year before, averaged about 54 in Supercoach from memory. So he's always been a favourite of mine getting in like the later rounds of draft. Paseka, he's always someone that's in and around my team. I like him, like what he offers. Right, Brian, I think that's enough on those two guys. Next question is from Stephen. He says, is Tommy Chester an avoid now with his injury history, or do you reckon he's going to be a late bloomer this season?
No, I think at his price, you just I wouldn't. If he's named for round one, you just absolutely go there. I probably wouldn't if he's not named for round one, but by what it sounds like, this MCL injury isn't too bad. So I just think if he's named round one, he's in my side, especially because they're playing Vegas, and you just don't know what's going to shake out in team lists. You know, if you avoid him, say he's named for round one, then you're like, no, I'll chill out. And then we get to team list Tuesday for the rest, and there's just no cheapies. Yeah, no, not for me. So if he's named round one, he's in my side. It's that simple.
Yeah, at price and dual, like it's just a complete no-brainer, isn't it? I think you just see what you get and just hopefully he can just jag an attacking stat or two and get a little price rise and you can move him on to someone else. Next question, Brian's from Cliff. He says, Jazz Tamalolo's had another knee surgery at the end of last season. Do you think it's getting to the point where he's going to have to retire soon due to the chronic nature of these knee injuries?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head when his 10-year deal is up, but yeah.
I was 27, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, like potential, like yeah.
far.
I just like he looked decent at the end of last year. I thought, you know, when he came back from a few issues. So yeah, like I'm not thinking retire. Like we obviously don't know the state of that knee and the fact he's needed another knee surgery. But yeah, I think if it's end of 27 for him, I can see him seeing that out. I just think he's just not going to play the game that we, you know, came to know and love from Tamalolo over so many years. I think it's just going to be limited minutes, more kind of high impact stuff over shorter periods is kind of my read with him. So his game will just change.
Yeah, fair sum up, mate. I don't have any other things I don't want to add there. I think that's a good call. Next question, Brian, is from Darren. He asks, are there any high-owned cheapies that you think won't start this Supercoach season due to injury or selection? Who have you got on your list here, Brian?
Mate, I'm going to throw straight back to you as the Supercoach expert because I only just started nudging into Supercoach today in terms of the cheapies and stuff. So what have you got on your list?
Yeah, off the top, I think Tom Chester's a little bit of a risk, but I think if he's named, then you know he's straight in there. But I just want to see where he gets named because it's Todd Payton. You just don't know. McInnes, who's the outside back from the West Tigers, there's a little bit of chatter that he's going to get the wing spot. The Tigers have the round one bye. You can't really wait around and hope that he's going to get a name in round two on the wing. I just think that's playing with fire. Then the other one is Dan Atkinson. He's 7 eligible. And I just wonder what the deal is going to be with, you know, Cole Flanagan and LKT and where Atkinson fits. Does he fit in at 7? Does he fit in at 6? Do you play 14? I don't know. I know there's a lot of people running sort of like the Atkinson and Ethan Sanders combo from the Raiders at 7. I don't really want to do that myself. I'd rather go elsewhere. So for that reason, I'm a little bit out on Atkinson there. Brian, any sort of that you disagree or you want to push back on me there?
No, mate, I'm pretty happy with that. I certainly haven't paid enough attention to the makeup of the Dragons side to have too much of an opinion there. I know there's chatter around, I think, like, you know, potentially 2 cheapy wingers there, but I don't know whether that'll come. I think you probably only bank on one at this point in time would be my suggestion.
Yeah, good sum up. Next question, Brian, is from Dom. He asks, what is the best injury bounce back candidates that you're going to curse with injury by the year this year, Brian?
We'll make the big announcement, which I'm sure everybody is, hanging for on Froths and Fades next week. I've had two good years, mate. Kiraz 24, Tino last year 25.
No misses.
I'm on a hot streak and it's not going to end. But my candidates I've got here, like all the bunnies. So you've got Fafita, Latrell, Campbell Graham, Brandon Smith, even like bargain basement price. Like, could Brandon Smith get back to something? Finns, Tommy Flegler, Max Plath, and then, as I said, Toby Couchman. Mate, like, he doesn't really qualify, but I just think Sammy Walker is going to be huge this year. Like, he's already priced at 70 average, so it's hard to say he's going to be the injury by the year.
Oh, is that all? Oh, yeah. That's a bargain.
But, like, you know, it's weird to say, but I genuinely reckon if it got to the end of the year and you said to me Sammy Walker averaged 90 this year, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. Like if the Chooks are as good as, way better judges than me sort of think they're going to be, and Sammy Walker's there just second season back from the ACL, a bit more confidence, DCE, doing a lot of the marshalling people around, and then Sammy Walker can just play off the back of that. Big on him. Kalen Ponga, Keanu Keeney, and Turbo, got to throw him in there, friend of the show, Tommy Turbs, get him back. He did well for me at the end of last year. Hylam Lukey, another one. I think they're kind of my candidates. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I'm just gonna name two because I think you've hit all the big ones there. Sammy Walker's the top of the tree for me. I just think second year back from the ACL, we could see even better from him. And we know I love slurping a Sammy Walker on the magic sponge, and I will not stop until the day I die with that. But the other one I really like is Hylam Lukey. He's 15 months post ACL. I just think the talent's it's just dripping with talent up there. It's just soaked with talent, but he just cannot get a start in that team with Todd Payton. The odds for Todd Payton and Seabold to be first gone coaches is pretty low. So it might be the shake-up that they need. It might be a coaching move on. It might be something, whatever. I just hope that Hylam Lukey just starts seeing minutes, and I think he could just be really, really effective. And I said to you off air, Brien, it's actually not that far out of the realms of possibility that he could play left edge for Queensland, legitimately. Because we had, David Fifita is going to be miles away from that team. It doesn't look like he's going to be anywhere close to that, the way that Billy Slater selects it. And then last year we had Tom Gilbert there for bits and pieces over the years. We've had Cody Capewell there for bits and pieces over the years. I think Bo Fermor got a sort of spot off the bench there last year. I think Hylam Lukey, if he's at full flight, he's probably a better option than all those guys. So I hope for his sake he can sort of get a look in there. He would have the link with Tommy Dearden as well. So, maybe there's a little bit of a partnership or a little bit of a combo there that's exciting. Just that's, a very strong bull case, but I just wonder how it shakes out for Hylam Lukey. I just want to see him get a full season and be healthy. Hopefully that can be 2026 for him. Right, Brian, we've got two more questions to get through. We're roaring. So Jared asks, what are the top three draft picks in your opinion this season, Brian? Who have you got for your top three?
Yeah, I got a pretty clear top four in my head. Cleary and Nico and Reece Walsh and James Tedesco. I think you could, and it feels disgusting saying this, but I think Payne Haas can definitely be considered in and around that 4 to 5 kind of area. But I think the top three, you just pick your poison of those four, Cleary, Nico, Walsh, and Teddy. For me, it's probably, I'm probably going Cleary 1, Hot Boy Walsh 2, Nico 3, I reckon is kind of my order. But yeah, it's it's hard. That's a really tough kind of area. But I just think if Walsh, the consideration with Walsh, which we'll talk about in Frosts and Fades as well, is the PCL injury, mate. That dragged him back big time last year.
Absolutely.
So, oh mate, yeah, I'm big on Reece, Hot Boy Reece. I'm big on him. But what are your top three, mate?
Yeah, it's almost identical, mate. I think it's Cleary, Walsh, and Nico, and then I think you could sort of make an argument for Haas and Teddy at that next spot there. I still am pretty high on Drinkwater. I don't think Drinkwater should be any lower than 6, in my opinion. So they'd be sort of the top ones for me. But I think, was it Maxi Bryden from the Playbook put up some stats about Reece Walsh's finish to the year? Was his average 122 through the final series?
Yeah, ridiculous.
It's something off its absolute head, where you see the teams that he ran through and the points that he put up, and you just think, well, he probably can't do it again. But then the counter argument to that is, Brian, but what if he does? And you're not on that train. I think if you're in the top 3, you got to have a stab at him, don't you? Because 7, actually, there's a few options. I don't actually mind 7 this year. It's been better than it has been in the past. I think you've got Cleary, you've got Nico, you've got Jerome Hughes, who's a primo option. You've got Sammy Walker, you've got Jaden Campbell. You got some pretty good options there.
Mitchy Mose is going to be good again. Yeah.
Mitchy Mose is going to be good. There's 6. You got a fair few things that you can have a look at there. Where in the past you didn't really have those SuperCoach relevant guys, and fullback had heaps of them. But tell you what, Reece Walsh is just, it was the season of young, dumb, and full of cum. It was just 2025 was his year, and it was just a joy to witness it, to be honest. And if you can get him in your draft squad, then what's better than that? That's just going to be box office when you watch the Broncos. Last question, Brian, from the battery questions here. So Stephen writes in, he says, it's not a draft question, Brian, but who have you got winning the comp this year? Give us your unbiased opinion. Or your biased opinion, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
mind. You can give
my
us both.
biased opinion is the Finns. They're going to stay healthy. They're going to be bottom of the injury ladder all year, and they're going to win the comp. So you did tell me as you were shedding a tear when the Broncos won that if the Finns make it, that you'd go with me. So
I'll be there. Don't worry.
so that's locking you into that. When it'll be Finns Broncos grand final this year, and then we can both be happy. But I genuinely think Bronx are a red hot chance. Obviously, I think that goes without saying. I think Penrith will be there and abouts again because I think like all their guys who came in, like your Blaze Talungis and these kind of guys, will be another season in. So I think they'll be good. But I can't go past the Chooks. Hey, like the Chooks are just like I don't necessarily believe in DCE all that much. Like I don't. Not sitting here telling you, but I just wonder whether he can kind of just do the boring stuff and let Sammy Walker and Teddy just go off the back of him. Gus Crichton, these kind of guys have got a really good forward pack. They got Reece Robson coming down, who's just going to shovel off the ground to those boys. I'm just huge on Sammy Walker, I guess is my thing. And if everybody else around him can just, and I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I think the Roosters can give it a red hot shake. So I'm sure I'm naming like the three favourites for the comp. So I'll say that I genuinely think the Finns could make the top four is kind of my homerism take, but I think they could make the top four. And if they make the top four and Isaiah Katoa's firing and, Herbie's firing and these kind of things, like they're as good a chance as anyone to give the comp a shake.
Yeah, and to me, the Bulldogs were the best team last year until the Galvin situation blew up. And I think they've got to be in the conversation, the Bulldogs, for a comp. Like, they're so defensively good. And if they can just figure out the spine combination there, especially the 9, 7, and 6, how that works, I think they're a really good shake for it. Obviously, I'm not going to bet against the Broncos. They're just going to get it done. And, everyone can just, suck me for another 12 months. But Bulldogs, I think they're sneaky amongst it. Like, I think if I had to put the top four together, it probably would be, probably Broncos, Panthers, Bulldogs, Roosters. I just don't know if I can get around the Roosters as much. I wonder how those combos are going to shake out. That's my only hesitation with the Roosters. That might be a late year sort of steamer. But, yeah, the Dogs, the Raiders were still bloody good last year, Brian. Like, you haven't lost too many. It's going to be a good competition. There's a lot of good teams on papers. Like, you look at who's going to make the 8. It's really hard to get a top 8 this year. The Warriors should be pretty good. The Sharkies are always top 4.
They'll go out in straight sets, in the finals, but they'll be there and abouts.
Of course, but the Bunny, they'll try hard. Like, the Bunnies are good on paper. There's a lot of good squads this year. So, yeah, it's going to be good. It always is good, Brian, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Let's go into SuperCoach Corner. We won't make this a long one because most of our SuperCoach stuff will come next week on Froths and Fades. But, mate, just give me a quick rundown of your SuperCoach side as it stands today and maybe pick out one or two players who you think are a bit left field who you'd like to give a quick shout out to.
Yep, sounds good, mate. We won't go too long. So I'll go top to bottom through the hooking position to start with. So Harry Grant and Brendan Smith is the hookers. Payne Haas, Terrell May, Jesse Colquhoun and Taniela Paseka on the front row. On the second row, Dill Lucas, Isaiah Yeo, Dave Feeder, Patson, Lissardi, Cooper Bai. Halfbacks, Jerome Hughes, Ethan Sanders, 5'8", Blaze Talungi, Jonah Pezzett. Their centre wings is Kiraz, Tamale, Campbell Graham, Tommy Chester, Fane Marnie, Seto 2, and Cody Ramsey. There's 3 placeholders in there, depending on team lists. And then fullback, I've got Drinky, Ponga, and Keanu Keeney. To everyone's surprise there, I don't have Reece Walsh in the team as it stands, Brian. I don't feel good about that, and that probably will change. But the one I will really want to draw attention to that I'm quite big on this year that might be a little bit against the grain is Jerome Hughes. He's at 631, which is really well priced. He's obviously not going to play Origin. the Storm don't buy until round 15, to my understanding. So he could be in your starting 7 position the whole way through. If you cast your mind back to last year, he had the shoulder instability, he had the forearm fracture, and he also had that metacarpal fracture that cost him a week or two as well, Brian. So Jerome Hughes was pretty nicked up last year, and he still averaged pretty well. And then remember the year before, he averaged 82 or 83, and he was the best halfback in Supercoach. So he's got that ability. I wonder what the team looks like without Pappenhausen now, but I just think Jerome Hughes could be someone you just set and forget at 7, rather than playing, the 2 cheap options and going somewhere else. I think Jerome Hughes could be really, really, really good and really sound. And the Storm's draw is not too bad either. And I think the fact you don't have to worry about him for, barring injury for a long time is a really, really appealing thing. The only other thing I would say is not popular, but Terrell May is starting with him. I just think, God, he was so good last year. I took him out of my team, and I was like, who do I feel as safe about as having him in my team? And I don't know. I just feel like in week 1, you're not going to have him in week 1, but if you can just hit him as a VC option, then you're totally sweet for a week, in my opinion. And then you've got him rolling through your team for the rest of the season. I just think, Terrell May could be really, really, really good again. You do have Haas and May, which is a lot of money to tie up, but everyone had them last year, and it worked out pretty damn well for the teams that had them in pretty quickly. So I don't hate going Terrell May to start. He's only 8% rostered, though, as it stands at the moment. So there's not a lot of people that are on that bandwagon. So again, there might be a lot of people that trade him in week 2, but I sort of feel like if you're going to get him in, chances of him playing Origin, I don't know. He wasn't I thought he would have played last year, but that never eventuated. He wasn't even in the squad. So I don't think he's close to an Origin berth. I just think maybe it's the Haas-May combination, and that's where you just pick and stick and get him rolling through your team and giving him those big, vice captaincy and captaincy options. Because that's normally the play, isn't it, Brian? Like, we often look at which 7 options and which 1 options give you the better captain play, but it doesn't happen very much like that at the start of the year, because the attack's always a bit clunky and teams are always a bit stouted defensively. They're all healthy, so you don't get those big blow-up games like you do later in the year that are a bit more predictable. So maybe it's just, the 2 big pigs in 2 front row positions and go with it from there would be maybe something that's a little bit less popular. How's your team shaking up? Because I think we talked about this off there, Brian. You got a fair bit of difference to me, so that's good to see. It might be a really interesting Supercoach season if that's the way it all shakes out.
Mate, to be fair, I did throw it together today, so I probably am I'm not the Supercoach expert tonight. I'm not the Supercoach expert anytime, because that's your title that I give you week in and week out, just to I don't know, smooth your ego. Jake Simpkin, Brandon Smith, Payne Haas, Tom Flegler, Taniel Paseka, Josiah Pahulu, Angus Crichton, probably the one I don't feel the best about in the second row, but I've got him for the moment. Dave Fafita, McEwen, Hamish Stewart, Paxton, and Lasati. Halfback, Mitchy Moses, Dan Atkinson. At 5'8", I got Harris DeVita, but that's really just a placeholder for Dylan Brown when he hopefully gets the 6, because I think he is around that price. Jonah Pezzett. CT Dub is where I've gone heavy. So I've got Herbie Farnworth, Jacob Kiraz, Daniel Tupou, Latrell Mitchell, and then 3 cheapies. And at fullback, Hotboy Reese, Keanu Kini, and Suafa Longo. So the ones who I pick out there, like Reese, I just want to give a bit of a shout out to, because like PCL injury last year. And he's got 3 tough games to start. So I can see that. But then the next 3 games are, I think it's like some combo of the Cowboys, Dolphins, and Titans. And I just don't see any world where I don't want to own him for those 3 games. And I'm like, do I really want to waste a trade when he played against finals teams last year? So like top 8 teams and average 100, 100 bazillion in the, like, even in the finals. Like, it was just ridiculous. So yeah, I think I'm all in on the Reece Walsh thing at this point in time. Dan Tupou is pretty much, I've got enough cash to go him or Marky Mark. You've heard me wax lyrical about the Roosters. I just want some piece of them somewhere. Mitchy Moses gets a goal kicking back. I think that goes without saying. And Jake Simpkin is probably the other interesting one. I did consider Harry Grant, but I just look at Manly and it's Jake Simpkin and then like Joey Walsh or Zach Docker-Clay, which, I mean, I'd have to look into Siebes and his, his techniques around, or tactics, I should say, around 80-minute hookers, but potentially, if Jake Simpkin is named there and there's no bench hooker, he's absolutely in my side. I owned him in a few draft leagues at the end of last year, and he scored really, really well. So I love the Jake Simpkin play, even if there is someone on the bench potentially. But the one thing I will mention, if anybody's still listening at this point, hopefully you're loving the Sponge to kick off 2026. But any long-term listeners will know that I did a 20-man league last year, which actually went really well. Everyone had a really good time. Well, not everyone, because 3 people decided to leave. They didn't want to go again this year. So I've got 3 spots available in the 20-person league if you want in. So it's got some interesting roster things, limited bench, 2 bench, just it's a bit interesting. It's SuperCoach done a little bit differently, and everyone in there seemed to really enjoy it, which is great. So if you're keen on jumping into a 20-person league and / if there's enough interest, I'll happily make another one because I enjoyed it last year. So jump into my DMs and let me know if you are keen, and we can fill that one up. James, I haven't mentioned it up until this point because I wanted this to be for the true Sponge sickos, right? The ones who are just listening for the love of the Sponge, because we've got a new segment. It might not be a weekly segment. It might not even be a monthly segment, or it might be that people want a whole podcast put together about this every week, because we all know, particularly yourself, that you're a big tinfoil hatter. You love conspiracy theory. And so we thought we would put together a segment for rugby league conspiracy theories, or sports conspiracy theories, or even, injury conspiracy theories and around those kind of things. So I've even gone ahead and made a theme song. Hopefully this doesn't get us copyrighted or anything like that on YouTube. But let's see. We'll play this and we'll get into our new segment for 2026, which is Tinfoil Takes.
There's got to be an investigation into this. Someone's got to be accountable for this. Come on, that's ridiculous.
So maybe
one of the great intros.
Before I throw to you, like, how good? Like, we love Tubes and a bit of X-Files, but to let people know, we are looking for your rugby league or injury related conspiracy theories. So send them in, and we'll pick the tinfoil take of the week, of the month, whatever it is, to discuss on the show. Because I know, as you put it, we love just people who are sitting around on the couch and they just come up with these weird and wacky theories about why certain things are the way that they are in our game. But to give you an example, there's been a conspiracy theory going hot in our other sport of interest, which is NFL. So I think as the tinfoil hatter, I'll let you take away the San Francisco 49ers power substation injury epidemic.
Well, Brien, let's launch into this conspiracy theory, and it's great to have tinfoil takes as a segment this year. I'm going to be all about this and all around. This is going to lead to many, many great conversations amongst the group chats out there. So what you're talking about, Brien, is there's a conspiracy theory that at the San Francisco 49ers practice facility, there's a power station immediately adjacent to it. So what they're sort of theorizing is that there's high amounts of electromagnetic fields and radiation that's causing like tendon damage or ligament damage or collagen disruption, and that's leading to this curse of injuries that the 49ers have been having. So it got so hot this year that actually one of the general managers of the 49ers, so John Lynch, who's the general manager there, had to come out and deny that there was like a link between increased injury risk and this location of this, basically this power substation next to the 49ers practice facility. So it's got a lot of clout on like TikTok and Instagram and things like that. And in NFL circles, there's a few people over in the States that love a tinfoil conspiracy theory. So that's what the theory is, Brien. So the theory is the power station is the thing responsible for all these ACL injuries and Achilles tears, because this electromagnetic radiation is degrading collagen in these guys. What do we want to talk about here in terms of the science? Can we put anything to bed? Can we take anything away? Or do we give this any more airtime than it's got at the moment?
Yeah, mate. Look, this is going to be the hard part about tinfoil takes. I hope there's a lot of like wacky rugby league ones because, we want to keep it as lighthearted as possible. I will talk about the science very briefly. So, from look, I'm not an expert in EMF and its effect on the human body, and I think the thing that I always come back to with this is I say that, and so what I turn to are the people who are experts in that, and I just parrot, what they say, and people are going to hear parrot and freak out, and they're going to be like, "Oh, you're a sheep, you follow blah blah." But like these guys, like I hope that people come in and see me as a physio and go, yeah, like this guy's been doing this for so long and he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to, put a lot of my trust in him to do the right thing by me. So I do the same with these guys because especially when like someone going to San Francisco 49ers training grounds with a Gauss meter, I think is how it's pronounced, is like the biggest G up I've ever heard. And especially when you find out that the readings that they found are pretty much the same exposure you would get if you were using a hairdryer or like a vacuum or something like that. So I'm like, why aren't all the hairdressers breaking down with, torn rotator cuffs?
Yeah.
Why aren't the cleaners falling apart? Those people who are using vacuums all day, every day. So yeah, I like all the evidence that I have seen, and I did look into it because it's an area of interest for us, being injuries. There is no evidence on human people that it has any kind of negative effect on tendons, ligaments, those kind of things. I think there are some studies in like rats, embryos or, something like that. But like I always come back to, I talk about the headgear stuff, right? Like there's so much in lab evidence about headgear reducing force and blah, blah, blah. And then there is absolutely zero evidence once you put it into practice that it does anything. So it's a similar sort of thing is when you've got these tests done on, whatever it may be in terms of rats or whatever the tests are, if it shows some sort, like you need that in human people to be able to run with it. And there just isn't that at this point in time. I think the 49ers are going to look into it, which I invite. It's not like I'm sitting here saying, it's never going to be an issue, but I think the carry on has been absolutely ridiculous for something that just has no evidence yet. Has no evidence whatsoever. It made me think a lot about, I think we spoke about it when we caught up, the Heffron curse for South that they had to come out and deny last year because they moved to their new center of excellence around the same time that the injuries all started happening. But like, I think Fred Warner, he's one of the 49ers star players. He was quoted this week as he's like, I don't think the EMF, the power substation caused someone to fall on my leg and snap it in two. Like, at the end of the day,
Fred. Yeah.
100%. Like, these guys are playing a really full on sport. We as human nature, we're always looking for a cause, for a reason, the smoking bullet, the villain, but it's often just variance, bad luck. There are little percentages here and there. Like I would definitely be looking more at the training, for example. Like I know Kyle Shanahan, who is the coach at the 49ers, has a reputation for being an absolute crazy man when it comes to, how he pushes guys at training and those kind of things. So, I'm sure it's the same with South with their Heffron Park thing, right? Is I know they've gone through, different performance staff and training and those kind of things. So, yeah, I think that has a lot more influence on it than this particular conspiracy theory. We spent a lot on it, mate, but hopefully we have some lighthearted ones throughout the year. But if you've got any rugby league, particularly rugby league conspiracy theories for us, please send
Footy or footy adjacent. Yes.
100%. All about them because we love it. It's good for us to sit around and have a chat about it and giggle and yarn. So I love it. Mate, that is a wrap for this week. Good. Yeah, it's a long stint, but first one for the year. So it had to be a long one. In saying that, next week's probably going to be longer because once we get me, you, and Simon of the BDE what is it? Best Draft Experts,
Yeah, Best Draft Experts.
podcast. We're talking about our froths and fades. Every position from hooker all the way down to fullback. We'll tell you who we're like and who we're not like, and heading into this year. I'll have a lot more study under my belt by this time next week. So I'll have some hot takes ready to roll. It's always our most popular show of the year, which is crazy.
Numbers are the numbers. It's always the most popular. It's probably our most dribbly as well. We come up with some absolute dribble, and that's the beauty of SuperCoach, Brien, isn't it? We can just take the piss out of one person, yahoo about another one. But at the end of the day, we're always just trying to find a little bit of an edge or have a little laugh about something that's happening in the game. And there's plenty of that. So it's always good.
It's Simo's year this year, mate. I don't know whether I really got it with Adam Doueihi last year. I'd like
There's enough of a win there.
Yeah, I'd like it's not
it's
a Jaimin Jolliffe, but I think it was not horrible. So I'll take a bit like Tommy Talau. I think yourself and myself, we're definitely a distant second to Simo.
Yes, we're sort of like we're chasing Bradman. That's the problem. It's like we're gonna really struggle to get anything better than what he pulled out that year. Anyway,
boy,
we can always aim, Brien. This is a new year, so it could happen. You just don't know. That's the thing. You just never know.
I love it. Yes, but we'll see you for froths and fades next week. Hopefully get a few partners on board with the Sponge this year, which is very, very exciting. So we might talk about that next week as well. But thank you, James. Great nudge. And we'll talk this week in preparing for the froths and fades next week. And as always, if you like the pod, give us a review, recommend to a friend. It really helps us. We're trying to get out to as many listeners as possible. But otherwise, have a great week and up the mighty, mighty Redcliffe Dolphins.